Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie. It's starting to rain out here just a little bit, and we are on June 30th, so this is going to be the last day that we can get a video in June. And what I've been doing today is going through and trimming all of the leaves off of the bottom of the sunflowers. See the sunflowers in here? And also the tomatoes. I tried to not trim or prune my tomatoes this season. We were just going to let them go wild. But unfortunately, they were just crowding out too many of my other plants down on the lower levels. They were a little bit shorter than those. So I came in and just trimmed all of those up. And it also increases the airflow going through those plants because this is a converted kiddie pool. And even though it is a composite material, it does not breathe as well, even though it's got really good drainage, as some of the other things that like in ground. So we went ahead and got those trimmed up. Everything is looking absolutely beautiful. We got really good rain last night, and it's raining right now. We're supposed to have rain for most of the day today. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon on June 30th, and we're in Garden Zone 5A, 5B in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And you can see now some of the plants that are underneath. We've got some cucumbers underneath the tomatoes and even a watermelon. And we've got some loofah sponges, loofahs right here. They look a lot like cucumbers, I've noticed, when their leaves are on them and they're starting to put runners on. And you can see even our tomatoes in our containers. We went through and trimmed all of those. And it ended up with a massive pile of leaves because we now have over 100 tomato plants, counting the suckers that we have rooted and kept those and put those in containers. So altogether we have so many tomato plants, it's absolutely insane. We're just going to see how much of a harvest that we can keep up with this fall. See, our tomatoes here in Garden Zone 5A, 5B, they won't be ready until September. They're just now starting to set fruit. They're blooming, setting fruit. Especially the cherry tomatoes, those are coming on a lot quicker than the larger tomatoes. And we came in and we fertilized everything a couple of days ago with some organic fertilizer, and everything is just blooming and blossoming and just getting huge really quick. But they needed that airflow in here. We came in and we trimmed all of this out. We're trying to get these tomatillos a little bit more under control, and you can see it really helped the tomatoes. They perked right up once that was done. I've got one back there that's really, really bent. So I'm going to have to get in there and see if I can straighten that one back out without breaking it, which will be really hard because I believe that's one of my last remaining San Marzanos. I only had a couple of them left remaining. And our cantaloupes are now blooming and setting fruit as well. And we have had a lot of pollinators in here. I haven't seen many honeybees, but I have seen mason bees, and they're called good news bees, but they're actually a fly, but they also pollinate as well. Now I did today notice that the chickens had gotten a hold of a hornworm, a tomato hornworm. So I'm not sure if we're going to have issues with tomato hornworms this season. I did get a caterpillar off of my tomatoes earlier today, but it was not a hornworm. I think it was a cutworm, but it was actually over here in the tomatoes and not in my cabbages or anything. So I went ahead and took that and gave it to the chickens, and I've been searching all of the plants and I'm not seeing anything as far as damage goes. So everything is still looking really healthy, looking really good, but we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. I'm going to check every day, probably throughout the day, every couple of hours, because things can change really, really quick. You can see some tomatoes starting to set. Right there's one on my red pear. And everything is blooming like crazy. It is looking so nice and green and healthy. We're getting some rain right now. You can see it's starting to get wet on the sidewalk. And everything just looking so gorgeous. The Black Prince tomatoes are getting huge. And those guys were pretty small just a couple of weeks ago, as well as the Rutgers. And here's one of the suckers that we pulled off of the Black Prince today. It had roots on it already, so we went ahead and just threw it in some soil. And we'll see how that does. We did just root some other suckers all this last week, and we got those transplanted, and they're going to look like this for a little while. They'll be a little wilty, and then they will perk back up. And we got this sunflower all nice and trimmed up. That's here in the fennel. Our fennel is just about ready to harvest. We have some pretty big fennel bulbs in there already. Let's see if you can get in there and see them a little bit. Right there they are. And our pumpkins and red curry squash, Tahitian squash, all of that in here surrounding the corn is really starting to spread. And we actually have little butternut squash on our butternut squash plants. And our potatoes are blooming. Kind of crazy, but right now I can't really get into the garden to trim up the tomatoes in here. We've got 22 in-ground tomatoes. These are black creme and Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes, so they are indeterminate varieties, and they will have lots and lots and lots of suckers on them. But I can't get in here right now because it's so wet and muddy. I don't want to pack the soil down. We've had a little bit of issues with the soil packing down this season, and that's just because of so much rain. So we're going to stay out of there, just let them kind of do their thing right now, and hopefully when it dries up we'll be able to get in there and trim some of those around the bottoms as well. Look at our beans. Our beans have got runners on them and they're starting to climb the trellises now. Everything is just looking so amazing. Here's an overview of just how gorgeous all of this is turning out to be. And our onions are getting nice big heads on them. So anyway, just wanted to show you what we're doing. Make sure that you trim your tomatoes, especially if you've got them in containers, to get you some airflow in there that helps them to produce a lot better, and the tomatoes that you'll get will be a lot larger. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we'll see you in the next one.